Kia ora koutou and welcome to another episode of Experience Bar. Kia ora koutou and welcome to another episode of Experience Bar, where for once we're not turning video games into cocktails. Today we're making my interpretation of a D&D cocktail mentioned in Critical Role, the Ruby of the Sea. So, let's get started. So, if you aren't yet up to date with Critical Role, don't worry. There are no major story spoilers in this episode. All I can say is that in a particular episode on a certain island, a drink gets mentioned and made by one of the members of the Mighty Nein. So we're going to try and recreate it in real life to see what it tastes like. To start with, you are going to need 3/4 of an ounce of ice. 3/4 of an ounce? So, to start with, you're going to need a shaker 3/4 of the way full with ice. And then we start with our first base spirit, which is 1 ounce of spiced rum. This is the first ingredient mentioned in the episode, because we know that one of the only ingredients, one of the only alcohols that they have access to, because it gets brought along by a follower of a certain god, is rum. So we know that this is rum. But we don't actually know precisely what kind of rum, so I'm going to go with spiced rum as one of the options that they had. So 1 ounce of, I'm using Black Magic, which seems appropriate for a cocktail named after a tiefling. You are then going to follow that up with 1.5 ounces of mango nectar, is what it's called. Not mango juice, it's the one that's like slightly thicker and slightly sweeter and has a little bit of the flesh mixed in. It's often called mango nectar. You're then going to get 1/2 ounce of lemon juice, which will help knock back the sweetness of that nectar, and 1/4 ounce of the other mentioned ingredient, which is grenadine. So we know that this drink is red because it's named after Marion Lavore, Jester's mother, who is a red tiefling with a apparently beautiful voice. So 1/4, only 1/4 ounce of that, because the grenadine is incredibly sweet. And the last thing that we know about this drink is that it's shaken. So that's what we're gonna do. Once you've given it a good shake, you're going to grab your glass. I've chosen this particular glass because it is fancy, much like Marion Lavore herself, and I've rimmed it with some freeze-dried strawberry. If you can't get this, you don't actually have to have the rim, but I think it adds a little bit of extra flavor to it, and it makes it look kind of cool as well. Now, once you've done your shaking, you are going to grab your... Okay, quick thing here, guys. If you have a julep strainer like I have here without the springs, if it was with the springs, it'd be a hawthorn strainer. Make sure that you end up with your cocktail in the smaller half, because this doesn't fit in here. So excuse me a moment. There we go. Now, once you've done that, give it a strain. You don't have to double strain. I always recommend doing it with shaken drinks though, because it helps capture all the extra ice shards and any leftover bits of fruit that you got floating around in there, which we may do if we're using lemon juice, or in this case, mango nectar as well. So give it a strain. Lovely. And just to finish this off, I was tempted to kind of get a red apple and peel that and make it like a little devil's tail, but to be honest, I think we've probably got enough red going on in this drink as it is. So instead we are adding a little rose, like an apple rose, green to kind of contrast against the rest of them, which I feel like Marion would appreciate, a little bit of extra color in a drink named after her. Pop that just there. So there you have it, the Ruby of the Sea, recreated from Critical Role and my own interpretation. If you haven't seen any of the others, go and check out the Critical Role subreddit. There's heaps of them on there, and some of them taste pretty damn good. I have recreated them. But these drinks don't happen without some serious support from our community, so I'd like to say thank you to all of our patrons who help make these drinks happen, in particular Cadence Mayberry, our Ruby of the Sea for this episode. Cheers. I really like this drink. So, in the episode, this drink is one of two. The other is Chaos Reigns, which is described as a gross-looking drink that has Midori in it, and it's green. I was tempted to recreate that one, and I may do in the future, but the Ruby of the Sea sounded a lot more pleasant. And it was described as a rum punch with rum, grenadine and shaken, which we tried to recreate here. I've also added the mango nectar in here for some slightly kind of fruitier, sweet tropical notes, and the lemon juice to kind of kick back on the sweetness added by the nectar and the grenadine. The mango nectar I kind of went with for a tropical kind of theme because they are on a tropical island, and I thought to myself, well, what fruits are they likely to have actually access to in their particular situation? So I thought mango might be one of them. It's definitely you could pound these back, I won't lie to you. They're very approachable, which I feel fits for a drink that was designed for a lot of people to consume. And of course you've got that lovely red coloration as an homage to the eponymous Ruby of the Sea. Really nice drink. Really hope they mention more cocktails in the future because this was a really fun one to research and recreate. But yeah, that's it. That's the Ruby of the Sea from Critical Role. I love Critical Role. I'm really looking forward to the next few episodes and the animated series. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here today, please drop us a like, maybe a subscribe, leave a suggestion in the comments below. And you can also catch us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Reddit. We've got a Discord, and we actually run our own D&D game where director Duncan, who's behind the camera right now, is the DM and is constantly planning the demise of our characters. So if you see me crying on one of these episodes, you know what's happened. Speaking of which, we're creating new content every couple of weeks, so I hope to see you then. But until then,